Yes, 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 yes. What's going on? How's everybody doing? I set it to midday, but then I set it to 12:30. And we here, we pretty much here on time. But it's Saturday. I haven't done a stream on Saturday in a while. I don't remember. I did a stream on Saturday maybe a month or two ago. But we are here today. We got quite a bit of stuff to talk about. One of them, since it happened a couple of days ago now, and everybody's seen it, but we definitely gonna talk a little bit about the debate. I mean, how can we not? We got to address some of those things. The Supreme Court is just the Supreme Court is really something else, man. I mean, they're just at every opportunity they can unnecessarily making life more difficult in a nation that's supposed to be the greatest of all time. And in many ways, it is. When you look at the economy that the United States has amassed, and now, right now, we're not talking about morality whatsoever. That's obviously that would totally change up the convo. But just given the fact that America has as much resources as it does, given the fact that the United States is the global leader, um, you'd think that making the administrative state incapable of administrating would be something that the Supreme Court wouldn't be doing. You'd think that taking away rights, women's abortion rights, and how that impacts just the lower classes and the middle class in general, how that impacts people, women directly, but society as a whole. We got, I don't know who we got. We got Julio, we got Mike Boy, we got Distracted Gardener, Margarita, Twin Dragon, Caroline, Christina. What's going on, everybody? In a second, I'm gonna go over here and turn off this AC because I got a tank top on and it's jamming. But yeah, making it easier to corrupt, elected officials and appointed officials, making it easier to just not make food, water supplies, and the products that we use more poisonous and more dangerous. We got Jen Hack in the building. Oh, we got, yes, from Australia, from down under, Mike Boy. Thank you so much for 9 months of membership. Thank you for everything that you do, brother. I truly appreciate you. And things on the rise. But before we get into how it's Jover, it's pretty Jover. But before we get into how Jover it is right now, uh, you know, well, matter of fact, let me go turn off this AC. Christina, thank you so much for 8 months of membership. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I love you. You crack me up. You are hilarious. You're a wonderful person. So thank you for everything. But let me run over here real quick and turn off this AC because if I don't do that, it's gonna get freezing. So give me 1 second and then we gonna roll into it. Um, let's see. I'll just pull this up real quick and then I'm gonna go turn off this AC. 1 sec. Hey, there we go. Hold on 1 sec. I'll be right back. I'm about to turn this off. All right. We back in action. I got on my short shorts. I don't know if you've seen that. It's hot outside, man. Look, listen, when it's hot, I become clothing challenged. I become very clothing challenged when it gets warm outside because it's hot, man. But a little cranberry juice right there. But I made some plans. My lease here in this apartment is up at the end of July. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to St. Louis for 3 to 6 months. It'll probably be more like 4 or 5. And basically, I'm not gonna have to really pay any bills, and I'm gonna save up a lot of money. And then I'm gonna move back out here in the fall. And I think that's a really good opportunity. A really good opportunity for me to one, save up money, not just for myself, but also that's needed for what I'm working on, for YouTube, for everything else that I got. And also, it'll just be a good opportunity for me to completely 100% zone in and focus. I'm my life really is not in Missouri anymore. So going back there for a few months and just completely focused, stacking my money up, then I'll come back out here. I'm excited about it. There's certain elements of it I'm not excited about, but I'm just going to take advantage of the opportunity. Because when you're an adult, you don't necessarily get many opportunities to do something like this. So I'm gonna take advantage. I'm gonna take advantage of this. Now, we got G Money in the building. What's going on? But yes, let's go ahead and get into this. Now, my thing is like ultimately it's not as if there's going to be anything new being said about Joe Biden after this in terms of him being old, him not being up for the job. But after the debate, people got a chance to see it firsthand. Now, there's a lot of counter arguments to say that are legitimate. I mean, you got to give him some credence in terms of, oh, he's old, he's busy, he has a cold and whatnot. But you always got to keep in mind the amount of people who aren't looking at it like that. I mean, it's just really an embarrassing position to be in, because on the one hand, Joe Biden he just didn't do well at all, and then on the other hand, Donald Trump was Donald Trump. He lied every two words he said. I don't who was he talking about? He said that the Democrats have become like Palestinians. He used Palestinians as an insult. Nobody said anything about that. Libby, thank you so much for 8 months of membership. Thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for always coming in here. And I still gotta watch No Men Beyond this point. I gotta do it. So I'm gonna get that done. But thank you so much for 8 months of membership and just everything that you do. The good spirits and the good energy that you provide to this community is very important. Um, I mean, at one point, Trump was. What did he say? Trump was like, he said when he was in office, America had H2O, immaculate H2O. Like, what does that even mean? Like, huh? Like, and he doesn't know what it means, but it's just like what the situation in the country just really is not a very good one. It's just not. So let's go ahead and get to it. Margarita, thank you so much for 5 months of membership. Yes, man, and it seemed like they didn't hop him up on stimulus or whatever that the other night. I don't know. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. It's like, listen, you president of the United States, y'all got access to everything. You got all the stimulants in the world, and then a whole bunch of shit we ain't never heard of. They probably got alien shit, alien medication, pills that they got off alien spaceships to give you superpowers. You should have gave it to them, man. But let's get into it. Let's go ahead and get into it. All right. Biden acknowledges weak debate performance as Democratic questions swirl over whether he'll stay in the presidential race.
I know I'm not a young man. State the obvious. Well, I know. Well, I don't. Folks, I don't walk as easy as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth. I know right from wrong.
Like, how low of a bar is that? Like, I don't lie every other word. I lie like a politician lies, but I don't lie egregiously like Donald Trump. And I know general right from wrong. That's like the lowest bar in history. Luke, thank you so much for 7 months of membership. I truly, truly appreciate you. I appreciate all of y'all, man. Thank you. Again, just for rocking with me. because this is, at the end of the day, this is a startup, and it's been growing, and like I said, I'm about to go back to St. Louis for several months so that I can get my shit together even more, and that'll just make everything more successful, because when I come back up here, I'll be able to go to this event, go to that event, move around, travel and stuff. um yeah, so again, thank y'all for everything that you do, because we are in this together. But again, this is like the lowest bar ever. I know right from wrong, and I know how to tell the truth. Like, damn, well, shit. Hopefully, you learn how to do that at a relatively young age.
I know how to do this job. I know how to get things done. I know
Right, exactly. You would hope that he intends to win the election. I don't every day, but today I intend on winning it. Again, the lowest bar. And hold on.
of Americans know. When you get knocked down, you get back up.
And listen, the reality is that both Joe Biden and Donald Trump are in bad situations. Joe Biden's in a worse situation now than he was for sure. Um, but if in the next debate he does much better, people, I mean, everything runs on like a week to week basis, not even in politics, but everything like entertainment. Like a few months ago, everybody was talking about Diddy. Ain't nobody talking about Diddy no more. You know what I'm saying? Like people still know what's up, but just in terms of what's on people's minds. So the only way that he can nullify his very lackluster debate performance, because it's not even just like the public is saying this. You got MSNBC, you got CNN, you got pretty much everybody acknowledging like, hey, maybe this really is a serious problem. So the only way that he really can overturn that isn't when the next debate in September or something, or I believe over the next few months, he's gonna have to be on the campaign trail, and he's gonna have to have energy. But I mean, he's 81, so you can't really blame him for not having too much energy. But still, it's just like, and then at the next debate, you have to do significantly better. Um, I mean, so it's just like, well, I intend to win the election. And it's easy to say, like, and it's true, like he could have dropped out a year ago and gave somebody else a chance, but he didn't. So either now, either he in the next very, very shortly, like he would have to drop out of the race extremely soon. And I mean, I don't know. I saw on the Young Turks, it was Jank and John, and they were talking about thank you, Alonso, September 10th. But Jank and John, that sounds like a that sounds like some type of a business that could be work. Jank and John. Jank was saying that he thinks that the Democrats are definitely gonna replace him or try to replace him. Um, we'll see. I don't really know. I wouldn't really. I don't. I don't really know if I have much of an opinion on that, other than it's certainly possible. But I mean, how would they actually do it? Like, what would be the process of that happening? And he would have to do it probably before the next debate. You know what I'm saying? Because after the next debate, the election is creeping up. So, um, uh, he would have to just completely turn it around. And the only time will tell for that. But, obviously we can't really, none of us can hold our breaths about that. All right, let's see. We got some stuff from the Supreme Court too. I'm sure that y'all went over a lot of that as well. Look at this headline. Hold on. This is some of what we just looked at, but I think it is um a bit different. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't really think that. I mean, Joe Biden really doesn't have anything to lose by stepping down. If he stepped down, I mean, what shade would that really be to his legacy or to his record? You know, um, I don't see how that really would impact him in any type of way. A lot of people would appreciate it, but we'll see. We'll see. Right, exactly. Oh, go ahead and get out that gin and tonic. It says a raging and coughing Biden makes clear he's staying in the race.
About to speak. Let's go to the president.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, North Carolina. I get in trouble with my mom looking down in heaven if I don't say, please excuse my back. I apologize. It's good knowing you have my back.
I mean, how can you blame people? How can you blame people? Hold on, we got Aaron in the building. Aaron, what's going on? How you doing, sister? Yes. Yeah, ultimately it's still gonna come down to the Democratic voters and to the independents and the people who vote for abortion rights really are gonna carry Biden for whatever he has left. Absolutely, for sure. And then outside of Biden, abortion rights Democrat, other than Biden, we'll still have to see what happens, but other than Joe Biden, I still expect Democrats to do resoundingly well overall because of specifically abortion rights. But really, everything that the Supreme Court has been doing is more of a reflection on Republicans being in office. So I fully expect Democrats to still do overall resoundingly well. Even if progressives end up, lose. Jamal Bowman just lost, but overall, I expect Democrats to do well. We got Trent in the building. What's going on? How you doing? Hold on, let's see what's up. Now let's see what some of these people are saying on the airwaves. And again, I'm sure that y'all have already seen a lot of it, but if they are gonna replace Joe Biden, then they got to do it like ASAP. There's no way to wait for it. And Aaron about to get it tatted. When I go back to St. Louis and save up money, I'll be able to do stuff like that too. Like I'll be able to, when I come back, get tattoos and stuff like that. Make myself a little bit more fancy. You know what I mean? All right. Things get tense on the set of Morning Joe following disastrous Biden debate. You're the only one raising. Okay, let's see.
And unfortunately, last night, President Biden let every fastball hanging out over the plate go right by for a strike for Donald Trump.
So
that was an indication that he was just not up to it last night.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on a second. That I agree with everything you said, except for the last part of it. Everybody calm down, and I'll tell you why. I mean, it's fine to not spin what happened last night, and we're not going to.
But by the way,
he had a terrible night.
Mika, everybody's calm here.
No,
you're the only one raising your voice. Everybody is calm here.
But again, it's the...
He said everybody here is calm. Shut up.
Let's just immediately pull this. Let's end this. Let's find someone else.
That's not what Mike said.
That attitude toward this is what I am saying slow down on, because again, there's no spinning it, but let's be balanced. Let's for once show some balance in a media world that is so shrill.
She said, let's for once show some balance in a media world. Normally we don't show any balance. Normally we're just totally off our rockers with stuff, but maybe let's show a little bit of balance this time. Exactly. He was like, right, the way he was just talking to her, like, shut up. Stop walking down that road.
With imbalance that we've become inured to the difference between these two candidates. So let's put it this way. Gene Robinson, I'll go to you.
Well, wait. I just have to stop you. First of all, we always show balance.
We are. Yeah.
Secondly, nobody's panicking. I said these were questions that Democrats and Joe Biden needed to ask themselves. And Mike said he missed one pitch down the middle after another and wasn't up to it last night.
Right. Okay.
He said
wasn't up to it last night.
He said last night. So I will say that it's not panic. I mean, it's not being panicked to understand what's at stake.
Well, this also came out the other day. So again, well, I mean, what are you gonna do? You know, like, what are you gonna do about it? We gonna find out. We just gonna keep going down these reels right now of people questioning, like, is this really the best that you can do? And again, this isn't just coming from progressives. This is coming from a little bit of everybody right now. Is that how he is every day? A visibly concerned Anderson Cooper asked Kamala Harris about Joe Biden's condition.
Just
Joe
finally,
Biden was very clear.
I know we have to go.
He signed back into law the protections of Roe v. Wade.
the person we
These are
saw
big
tonight, the
issues,
president we saw
substantive
tonight on that
issues.
stage, is that how he is every
How could you sign that? How could you sign the laws of Roe v. Wade into? How could you put that into law if you didn't have a supermajority? Which I, don't particularly suspect the Democrats to have. But without a supermajority, I don't know how you would do it. But there've been a variety of opportunities that Democrats could have codified Roe v. Wade. And even at the argument of saying, oh, well, there were a lot of times where there weren't the vote, where they didn't have the votes. That's half true. There were times where they did have the votes. But regardless, in 50 years, a strong effort was never made. So
day?
The Joe Biden that I work with every day is someone who, as I have said, has performed in a way that has been about bringing people into the Oval Office, Republicans and Democrats, to compromise in a way that is extraordinary these days because it just doesn't happen, but Joe Biden can make it happen. The Joe Biden I see is someone who goes to our allies around the world and strengthens NATO to the point that there are 2 new members of NATO who just about 4 years ago, people said, is NATO even have a reason for existing? The Joe Biden I know is someone who has delivered 800,000 new manufacturing jobs.
And again, that really is not the issue. It's what people saw, that the people's biggest concern is like, oh, can he even handle it? Can he even be in office? Trump also had a very bad debate. So it's just like, both these guys are just not ideal. Neither of these guys are ideal at all because, for as much criticism as you give one, you got to give the same amount to the other because Donald Trump he was Donald Trump. He was saying a bunch of absolutely ridiculous BS. But again, she wasn't really answering his question there because she started talking about policy, which is the most important thing, whatever the policy position is, policy accomplishments or lack thereof. But people's concern is his age and his fitness. You can't pretend like that's not what people are concerned about. But yeah, yeah, they're gonna have to get that's what a vice president's for, but if they're gonna replace him, they gotta do it ASAP. Scott Jennings compares Biden campaign to the Titanic as David Axelrod nods along. This ship is going to sink.
Lay out that hypothetical, Scott Jennings, because I have to say I did.
Again, it'd be different. And listen, there are such things as bad days and bad nights. That's a thing. But the issue is Biden is 81. It's not like, oh, well, he's 60 and he just had a bad night. It's not even like, oh, he's 70, he's 55 and sometimes it goes like that. No. He's 81, so people are giving him far less grace about that because it's like, oh, well, is he always like this? But if he was younger, then it still would not have helped him. But it wouldn't have been. It would have been like, oh, he has a cold. Maybe he's just tired. Maybe he's going through a lot. But
Did hear from some Republicans last night who said, well, the only mistake the Trump campaign made was doing this debate while Democrats still had time to replace Biden.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to replace him. I was thinking, I didn't sleep much last night because I'm so worried about the president and I'm worried about what we've been.
Well, Jen, I appreciate that he rocks with me. You know what I'm saying? Because shit, at the end of the day, we all really the same. You know what I mean? I'm just doing my best. I'm just another motherfucker out here, just like everybody else. So I appreciate the love from both of y'all. That's cool as hell.
Been told about the president by the White House press secretary, his campaign. We've been told a lot of lies by a lot of Democrats and a lot of people on the government payroll about his fitness for office. But I think I was staying up overnight thinking about the movie Titanic, and specifically the string quartet that was playing on the deck. They're going to ride it out, and they're going to play the music, the people around them, and this ship is going to sink, and they're going to have no one to blame for Donald Trump coming back but themselves. It is squarely on their shoulders.
They'll be playing Jaws.
I was just going to say a quick response to that, because it does seem, and if you're Joe Biden and this is so existentially important to him,
I think this is something he needs to consider, and those around him need to consider.
Again, the only way that he really can combat this is if he, is just, he has to put out a lot. He's going to have to start putting out a whole lot of content that shows him out and about talking to people at rallies. And then at the, that's what he would have to do. He can't just not be anywhere for the next several months.
What does he want his legacy to be? He has a record he's proud of, I think justifiably so. He did save the country back in 2020 from Trump, and we saw what happened in the aftermath that underscored how important that was. But the question is, if he then becomes a vehicle by which a very unpopular Donald Trump, who, by the way, did not do particularly well last night, becomes president again, what does that do to his legacy?
They framed it.
Yeah, again, I mean, if Biden were to drop out, I mean, he has a lot of ugly scars in his legacy for sure, 100%. But just in terms of, for a four-year term presidency, you could be like, oh, well, I was president when I was really old. I got up there, and I just felt like it was time to pass the baton to somebody else. Like, people can respect that because that's life, like that's life. But we have a very short amount of time to see what's going to happen with that. Boom. All right, here we go. Chris Cuomo declares Trump and Biden are embarrassment to the country after debate. I actually felt bad for the moderators.
If you performed the way either of them performed tonight, you'd be out of a job. Okay, and I don't even think you'd complain about it. The bar has gotten.
He said, if you perform the way they performed tonight, you'd be out of a job, and I don't even think you'd complain about it. Hey, that's real. Sometimes when you just real with yourself, you're like, yeah, I fucked that one up. Yeah, I can't even lie to myself.
So low that my hope is that for all you guys at home who are watching this, you looked at that stage, you saw a guy who's a sick man, and you saw a guy who's arguably a bad man on the stage at the same time. And I really hope the conclusion is a resounding, we have to do better than this. These two men are an embarrassment to the United States of America. That debate was an embarrassment. But
it really was, though, because everybody's watching. Like, America has so much influence over everything. I mean, look at, for instance, look at K-pop or like reggaeton, and like a lot of the really popular Latin music right now. We've already seen this before. Like, whether it be the culture, so much of this came from America. We saw all of this in the 90s and the 2000s, and now the rest of the world looks just like us. They dress like us, they act like us. Their music sounds just like ours, it's only in a different language. I say all that to say everyone's watching us. So yeah, that was embarrassing for sure. That absolutely was.
Actually felt bad for the moderators. I don't even know what there was to follow up on. They weren't making any sense. Trump too. When he's not making things up, he's making things worse. He didn't say a single positive thing about the United States of America.
He said when he's not making things up, he's making things worse. That's a very good description of Donald Trump. If he ain't making shit up, he's making shit worse.
Except that he's great the whole night. And Biden is clearly past it. Okay? Now.
Hey man, this is what people are saying who typically are shielding and defending Biden endlessly. We're just going over these are what the pundits are saying. It's not a good situation, man. So I said, if they gonna do something, they better hurry up. Otherwise, and Biden gonna have to start making a whole lot of content. He gonna have to start showing his face all over. Otherwise, it's looking pretty Jover. Oh yeah, Lonzo, you know what I'm saying? I got to put on. You know what I'm saying? I got to show out. All right, so we got 51.3 million people watched the debate between Trump and Biden. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how spectacular that is or not, and what are they counting it on? Because a lot of people look at stuff afterwards too, like online and shit. Just over 50. Okay, so it says nearly 20 million fewer people than watched their first debate in 2020. Okay, so I think that's really a general reflection of their overall drop in popularity. And I think, some of the the newness has worn off in terms of we got to get Trump out of here. So like when 2020 it was just more of a monumentous event, but now I think a lot of people kind of knew what to expect, um and stuff like that. Because again, and then on the other side, Donald Trump, when I was president, we had H2O, immaculate H2O. Like, what the fuck does that mean? What does that mean? My body's made out of 70% or so H2O. I got some H2O right here. Like, what the hell are you talking about? He doesn't know. He does not know. All right, now let's see. We just going down the road, man. We just going down the road and what people are saying. Bob Woodward brands Biden debate performance a political H-bomb. All right. Watergate reporter and longtime Washington Post associate editor Bob Woodward said President Biden's debate performance was a political hydrogen bomb, and the public deserves to know what really happened. Woodward, joined MSNBC's Air Melber on Air. That's an interesting first name. Air Melber on Friday following the debate, where he said the performance was so bad, so awful that reporters must be looking for some explanation from his staff. I think the answer here is in reporting, in seeking very aggressively an explanation. What happened here? Woodward said. We don't want it to come out in some book or some memoir in a couple of years or decade. We need to know. Well, I don't. The only thing that happened is two old guys were debating, and one of them is out of his goddamn mind, and the other one is just old. Oh, his name is Airy. Oh, it says Air right there. That's why I was like, interesting. Air? Just a little typo. Shit happens. I was like, I don't think I've ever heard that one before, but shit. My first name is a last name, and up until relatively recently, not a lot of people had them. I'm meeting a lot of young Jacksons now, a whole lot of youngsters with the name Jackson. But all right, we got Ari Melber. Yes, that makes more sense. I don't know. He's like, what happened? Nothing happened. It was just a very unflattering debate. It was not a good debate performance. Okay. We're gonna keep going down this line, and then we'll get into other stuff. We might as well just finish this. We might as well finish it up. Okay, let's see. All right, what we got? Chris Wallace. You can't come back from that. CNN's Chris Wallace declares that Biden wasn't capable of doing any better.
But Chris, he goes through 6 days of preparation at Camp David.
More than that.
And they know the
It
rules.
was more than a week.
Okay, so more than a week. They know the rules. He practices with the mics. He knows every one of these questions is coming. And yet he couldn't fill the time. Now, I just want to, let's see what the White House is saying. Sources close to the White House are saying he had a cold, wasn't feeling well. I mean, as you would expect, that came out early on in the debate. But what accounts for someone with so much experience doing so much preparation and this being the outcome?
Honestly, I think the question answers itself. He wasn't capable of doing any better than he did. He had all.
There's a world where he prepared to not go over the 2 minutes.
He was incapable tonight on the biggest of stages that he sought. He, in effect, dictated, and with all of that preparation, he was incapable of doing better than he was. And you can't come back from that. You can't be on a stage where tens of millions of Americans watched you and come up empty. And that's what he did tonight.
He almost.
I mean, yeah, like I said, the only real way that Biden can combat that is up until period at the next, if he doesn't drop out at the next debate, he is going to have to do significantly better. It's going to have to be a 180, like night and day, like, like what, pump the whole, pump everything into this motherfucker before the next debate. Don't let him get on that stage if he ain't 2 seconds away from cardiac arrest because he on so much goddamn amphetamine. Give him all the amphetamines. And then before that, he's going to have to just do significantly better, like pump the whole goddamn pharmacy into this motherfucker before you let him go back onto the stage. Let him do it in his sunglasses because his eyes popping out of his head because he's so goddamn toasted off the amphetamine. But we'll see what's up. We'll definitely see what happens. Oh man, we can't have me as president. I'd be the freakiest president in history. I'd be even more freakier than JFK if I was president. Shit. It would be going down if I was president of the United States. All right, let's see what's up. David Axelrod tells GOP strategists, if Biden is replaced, you guys are in trouble. Yeah.
I just want to say one thing.
Yeah.
Especially to you two guys. If for whatever reason there's a change at the top of the ticket, you guys are in trouble with Donald Trump because the guy who was up there tonight is not a guy who's going to inspire people. He did not show in any way that he has changed from the guy who people don't have a very positive opinion of for a lot of good reason.
I think Donald Trump won several policy exchanges tonight.
Yeah. I mean, it could be much of anybody, and people would be like, okay, fuck it, man. We're just going to get to 2028. Because for everything that we're saying about Joe Biden, Donald Trump wasn't good last night. And nobody can, I mean, obviously you're going to have people pretending like he knocked it out of the park, but you can't, any rational person can't pretend like he did well. I mean, he went there and of course he said, wouldn't stop talking about how he won in 2020, even though everybody knows he lost, including him and his base. Everyone knows he lost. He wouldn't stop saying that. He wouldn't stop praising the January 6ers. And everything was because of him, the immigrants, but everything is because of the brown immigrants, all of it, all of our problems. So, Donald Trump did not do well.
I think he did well on immigration. I think he did well on the economy. I think he did well on inflation. I think he went back to Afghanistan as he should have. The thing he did not do was after he realized that he had Biden beaten on policy and on image, he should have turned the page and sounded an optimistic note about what we can become as a people and as a country. He did not do that. He continued to pummel Joe Biden all night. I understand what you're saying. But at the end of the night, very few things about the policy exchanges is going to be remembered. People are going to remember Joe Biden. They're going to remember him shuffling out. They're going to remember him staring blankly into the camera. They're going to remember him looking down, losing his.
And they're going to remember Donald Trump saying that when he was president, we had immaculate H2O, and because yeah. And then then they were at one point, they were both up there arguing about golf and shit. They was up there talking about golf for like several minutes, and the moderators are like, "Guys, let's move on to the next question."
His train of thought, and they're going to remember that everything I thought I knew, but the White House told me don't believe my own eyes, is actually true.
But that's not what I'm saying. What I said, Scott, was if Joe Biden.
And also, Biden's problem really is not Donald Trump all of a sudden gaining a ton of support. Joe Biden's problem is people not showing up to the polls for him. That's his issue, because you can't have looked at Trump's performance and be like, yeah, like, come on, bro. If you're on the fence about something, you're more likely to just not vote. Okay, we already got that. Biden was in North Carolina the other night, and he was talking about how he doesn't, how he's not as young as he used to be and all that stuff. Okay, we don't need to do this one today. Okay, I think they was giving Jill Biden a hard time. They were giving Jill, you answered every question. Critics brutally roast Jill Biden for praising husband's debate performance. All right, let's see what's up. First Lady Jill Biden received an avalanche of criticism following her take on her husband's debate performance on Thursday night against Donald Trump. President Joe Biden amplified concerns over his age during the debate and set off a wave of panic throughout the Democratic Party and calls for him to step aside. But at an event following the debate, Jill had nothing but praise for her husband. Joe, you did such a great job answering every question. You knew all the facts. And let me ask the crowd, what did Trump do? Lie. The Daily Mail, one of the most read websites in English, I didn't know that, shared the clip online and captioned it, U.S. First Lady Jill Biden has been mocked online for treating her husband Joe like a toddler. Fox News host Kennedy wrote a column for the Daily Mail comparing Jill Biden to Nurse Ratched, writing, Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. She condescended like a nanny congratulating her toddler for leaving his diaper dry. Sky News in Australia ran a similar headline and included a quick roundup of social media users saying things like, this intro of Joe by Jill sounds like a mom congratulating her toddler for using the potty for the first time. There's cringe, and then there's Jill Biden, another user wrote.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts. And let me ask the crowd, what did Trump do? Lie! Yes.
This is such an uninspiring election. Oh man. Yeah, no, that just wasn't solid. We got the View host. We got hosts from the View talking about how Joe Biden needs to step down, but we don't really need to watch that. Hold on, let's see what's because this is a whole 10-minute thing, but they sitting up on the View basically like, I don't know. I don't know about all this. But we good. We don't really need to look through that. All right, now let's check this out real quick. We still not quite done, but we definitely didn't need to go over that because we still got quite a bit of stories. He's become like a Palestinian. Trump says Israel has to be allowed to finish the job.
On to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward. Which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas, number one. They're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened? In Israel, we're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so they're 2 different things. Hamas.
Well, I mean, that is true. He said we're the biggest supporters of them in the world, and that is true.
Cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European.
We have an ocean separating us. Thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna let him finish. But let's get back to Ukraine. There's an ocean and many mountains and forests that separate these 2 great lands from each other. There are also several other nations between Ukraine and the ocean that span. Like what? Oh my God! What is going on?
Nations to get it, but
he said there's an ocean between.
They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent $100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO?
Look how he's just staring off at him.
I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all. You got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one who wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
What? What? Oh my God. See, that's what I'm saying. Like Donald Trump didn't gain a whole bunch of voters this night. Like he did horrible too. Both of these motherfuckers did terrible. he just used Palestinian as an insult, and right now people are even more sensitive about that than they normally are, than they usually are. You know, like, I mean, both of these guys did absolutely horrible.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. You're going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have...
He said, you understand NATO? That was a funny little dig at Trump. They're so old.
Is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. Are you going to stay in NATO?
He said, "You understand that? Do you even know what that means?" No, of course he doesn't know and understand what it means, and yet millions of people want him to be president.
He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to.
Man, Biden should have done that so much more. Like, do you even know what that means, you idiot? Do you even understand any of these things? But he's too old, man. Like he does, and he said it when he was in North Carolina. He said, "Look, man, I've lost some steps. I'm 81. I'm not as quick as I used to be." And this, I mean, can you really blame him?
Avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe. What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. See what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
And again, what he just said about NATO was fine. You know, like it's not, if you were to just read a transcript of what he said, a lot of what Biden said was just normal. If you're just basically talking about NATO, why it needs to be protected, what it's for, and all of that. But again, it's the pauses, it's every, you know, it's how it was said, it's how it was addressed, it's how he came off, you know. But he should have done so much more of that. Like, do you even know, even understand any of this shit, you idiot? No, you don't. Of course you don't. Okay, here's something else that was funny from the debate right here. Trump mocks Biden for rambling incoherently. I really don't know what he said, and I don't think he knows either.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was really bad.
Turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from
Hassan said he looks like he's on 1 HP. This motherfucker got about a centimeter of movement left. He on 999% damage in Super Smash Brothers. If you sneeze 10 feet from this motherfucker, he going out of bounds.
My mothers put him in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we can do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. All he had to do was leave it.
I don't really know what he said at the end of that
He
sentence.
decided to open up our border, open up our country.
I don't really know what he said at the end of that sentence.
What we can do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it.
He did leave it. He did. He left a lot of your policies in place, and then he just went hard on it. Like,
He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere, all over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open, and he didn't need.
no, he didn't. I mean, God, it's so ridiculous, the idea that we just have wide open borders, and every time a Democrat's in office, they just swing open. Like, no
Legislation, because I didn't have legislation. I said close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people.
When he was in office, we had the safest border in history. Now, all of a sudden, it's the worst border in history that quickly. You know what I'm saying? That's all it took. It didn't take no time for that to go down.
People are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in
Thank you,
caravans.
President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, and his administration killed an Al-Qaeda person come in and his administration, killed three American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying.
All of a sudden, it was just the worst in history. All right, let's see. It looks like we moving on. Looks like we moving on into this a little bit. All right. Now, let's see a little bit of what the Supreme Court got going on. Yo, that was the worst debate ever. It was just horrible. Again, both of y'all could have been like, nah, we ain't gonna do the debate. Homeless people can be ticketed for sleeping outside. Supreme Court rules. Of course. We got Ariola in the building. What's going on? How you doing? Good to have you here. The Supreme Court ruled Friday in favor of an Oregon city that ticketed homeless people for sleeping outside, rejecting arguments that such anti-camping ordinances violate the Constitution's ban on cruel and unusual punishment. Justice Neil Gorsuch wrote the opinion for the 6-3 conservative majority, with the 3 liberal justices dissenting. The case centered on anti-camping ordinances in Grants Pass, Oregon, that were challenged by several residents experiencing homelessness. It had been watched closely by city and state officials who are uncertain how to respond to a surge in homelessness and encampments that have cropped up under bridges and in city parks across the nation. It's also being followed by people who live in those encampments and are alarmed by efforts to criminalize the population rather than build shelters and affordable housing. Hold on. Let's see. Right, exactly. Like, you're right. He was doing that. He was talking about some, in some Democratic states, they let it go all the way up to birth, and even after birth sometimes. Like, yeah, because that happens all the time. Okay. The Constitution's 8th Amendment serves many important functions, but it does not authorize federal judges to wrest those rights and responsibilities from the American people and in their place dictate the nation's homelessness policy, Gorsuch wrote in his majority opinion. Gorsuch wrote that homelessness is complex and that its causes are many. People will disagree over which policy responses are best. They may experiment with one set of approaches only to find later another set works better. They may find certain responses more appropriate for some communities than others, he wrote. But in our democracy, that is their right. Nor can a handful of federal judges begin to match the collective wisdom the people possess in deciding how best to handle a pressing social question like homelessness. I mean, this is like what I got from this is And I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an attorney, but what I got from this is, I'm a Supreme Court judge, but I'm not going to intervene in anything unless it's stuff that I believe in and things that I care for, because obviously the Supreme Court, especially recently, has been intervening in things that they don't need to, like Roe v. Wade, which happened 50 years ago. They didn't need to do that, but they did. But he wrote this based like, well, every city might handle it differently. That's true that every city might handle it differently, but the core issue here is how, the limits on how we can treat other human beings, our fellow man and woman. Those people that you step over, that could very well be yourself, in another life, in another situation. So that's really the issue, because this is just a way to force them to the outskirts of society. Really, go to the outskirts of society and die. You know what I'm saying? Go to the outskirts of society and die from hunger, thirst, cold, heat, and disease. That's all this shit is. Just like spikes under the bridge and all of that. Justice Sonia Sotomayor said in dissent joining the court's two other liberals that the ruling punishes people for being homeless. Yeah. I mean, this is similar to the idea of like overdraft fees. You might be a couple bucks over and they're like, oh, we'll charge you $34. Oh, we'll charge you $50 for an overdraft fee. But this is even worse. Sleep is a biological necessity, not a crime, Sotomayor wrote. For some people, sleeping outside is their only option. The city, she said, punishes them for being homeless. That is unconscionable and unconstitutional. Again, exactly. That's what this is about. It's the limits to which we can treat our fellow man and woman. And the way that he wrote this is like, well, it's not really the Supreme. And this is what kills me about Republicans. It's like, it's not the government's place to do anything about anything. Then why are you a part of the government? Why are you there? What are you there for if that's how you see it? Oh, well, we know why they're there, to deregulate everything and cut taxes for motherfuckers who don't need tax cuts. That's why they're there. It's not for the government to decide if it's like, what's the government for? The ordinances bar people from sleeping in public with bedding, which can include sleeping bags or bundle up clothing. Each violation of the ordinances costs, a $295 fine, because, of course they can afford that, which increased to more than $500 if not paid. Of course, because, that's totally fair. You sleep out, you fall asleep outside because you're really tired. Next thing you know, after 2 tickets, police could order a person to avoid a park for 30 days. Anyone who violated that order could have been sentenced to 30 days in jail. A federal appeals court ruled against the city, holding, excuse me. Right, exactly. They keep building all these expensive apartments that full-time employed people can't afford to live in. Grants Pass argued that the Eighth Amendment, the cruel and unusual punishment. On any given night, more than 650,000 people in the United States are experiencing homelessness. According to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, that number increased 12% from 2022 to 2023. So a 12% increase from 650,000. Arresting or fining people for trying to survive is expensive, counterproductive, and cruel. Indeed, it is. But, oftentimes cruelty is the point. All right. If only Americans understood how bad. Experts appalled at Friday's Supreme Court ruling.
Cases.
These, Anna, are momentous.
In a landmark case, the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that the so-called Chevron doctrine would be overturned. It is a 40-year standard that the conservative court eliminated with the 6-2 decision, in which Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson recused herself. Lower courts have relied on this doctrine over 18,000 times to determine environmental regulations that stop multinational corporations from polluting. The High Court has deferred to the doctrine 70 times, agreeing that they should defer to a government agency's reasonable interpretation of an ambiguous statute. The decision seriously limits the power of the executive branch and gives it to the courts. In her sharply worded dissent to the case, Justice Elena Kagan contends that, quote, given Chevron's persuasiveness, the decision to overrule the doctrine is likely to produce large-scale disruption. All that backs today's decision is the majority's belief that Chevron was wrong, that it gave agencies too much power and courts not enough. But shifting views about the worth of regulatory actors and their work do not justify overhauling a cornerstone of administrative law. In that sense, too, today's majority has lost sight of its proper role. Many legal experts and assorted observers were similarly aghast by the ruling.
Major decisions, the Supreme Court has done an extraordinary thing, an extraordinarily dangerous thing. They sound technical, but here's what they're about. Most government regulation in this country is not done by Congress, it's done by administrative agencies. So like climate regulation done by the EPA, food and drug regulation by the FDA, kind of economic issues by the SEC and other organizations, even how much your phone bill is by the Federal Communications Commission. All of those regulations are interpreted against the backdrop of a decision in 1984 called Chevron, which gives agencies deference in determining just how much power they have and what they can do. What the Supreme Court did today by a 6-3 vote is overturn Chevron. That is going to make it much more difficult to regulate businesses, to protect consumers, to protect the environment, to protect our healthcare. This is as momentous a decision as it comes. I know we're all been focused on the Trump immunity case, and there are many good reasons why. But in terms of influencing Americans' daily lives, this decision, which sounds technical, is a major, major, big deal, and is going to change government as we know it.
So grateful for you laying that out for us. Again,
Ariola, I'm definitely happy that you made it out of that situation. Because I mean, few things are just more constantly stressful than not having a roof over your head. That's one of our most immediate basic needs, is having some shelter. And you don't realize how important that shit is until you outside and it start raining, or you're outside and it's hot, or it's cold, or whatever that may be. So I'm definitely glad that you were able to make it out of that situation. But yeah, it's. This country, the Supreme Court is just completely destroying the country. Completely destroying the country. And for what? For what? All right, let's take another look at that. We'll take another look. Another gander. And then you already know we got some chip chick to go over after we're finished with this stuff. Okay, this is more about Chevron.
Many rulings still, including the ones on Donald Trump's presidential immunity claim. And
this is the one we just watched. But yeah, how does that help? How does that help anybody other than corporations to make a few extra dollars? But what, it's just after, at some point, what good is ruling the world if ain't nobody alive in it? What good is ruling the world if it's destroyed? Like if you have a totally weak populace, it's just stupid. It's ridiculous. And how intentional is it? How intentional? You think that these lobbyists don't understand what they're doing? You think they don't get it? Of course they get it. Like, all of this shit is so intentional. And they don't give a fuck. They really don't care. The future of humanity be damned. Who gives a fuck? The future of the United States, let alone humanity, man, who cares? I'm worth $20 billion, but that's not enough. It's so just shallow and ridiculous. After a while, it's just like, what all is this money really doing for you? After a certain amount of money, and I'm not even, I'm not even talking about happiness. After a certain amount of money, like what can't you buy? What can't you finance? What can't you lease? after a certain amount of millions, like, what difference does it really make after a while? What's another billion really going to do for you? Because after a while, again, what the fuck can you not have? Teacher disappointingly confronts the reality of living in the United States after 10 years in Mexico. There's an overwhelming sadness and isolation. His time abroad highlighted the stark cultural differences between Mexico and America. Returning to the United States after a decade of teaching in Mexico, one teacher found himself grappling with a profound sense of disappointment and isolation. The vibrant, community-oriented life he had enjoyed in Mexico starkly contrasted with the overwhelming sense of loneliness he encountered upon his return. The teacher took to TikTok it's on TikTok, so it's not going to play.
Say this respectfully, but after 10
man, TikTok
in Mexico, and then I come back to the United States, I am deeply concerned about what I see as a psychological discomfort that is so obvious in comparison to Mexico. People from the United States can be the best, kindest, most responsible people, but a large majority look like they're just losing it. The last couple of days, I've risked it, and I've asked people.
Yeah, no, this really is a major issue, a result of our individualist culture. COVID definitely made things worse, changed up the market to where people don't have to go into the office as much, which isn't inherently bad, but the world, especially our world, is becoming more and more isolated and more digitally driven. So this absolutely is a real issue. That we have to address as a society. And stuff like that goes into, wages, benefits programs, like the ideas of a 4-day work week, stuff like, universal basic income, and just get, like affordable education, affordable health insurance, stuff like that. Could even help people just get out of the house a little bit more. It could help people get out. All right. I might save these. Actually, I think I'm going to save these upcoming stories that I have for Monday, because I got some good stuff pulled up from Chip Chick. I got some good dating stories pulled up. And I got something that's funny. We gonna go, but yeah, I think I'm gonna save this for Monday. Texas high school football coach refuses to give students woke water breaks. If you don't like it, go to theater camp. That is hilarious. That's what's wrong with this generation. This pussy ass generation think they need water to survive. But yeah, we gonna go over all of this stuff. Thank y'all for joining me on this Saturday. We had a very good stream going over that it's Jover. We're going over the bad situation that Joe Biden now finds himself in, or worse situation he finds himself in, the ridiculousness of Donald Trump, and the fact that all the big networks are sounding the alarm. So we're going to get back to it on Monday. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me. Thank you for your continued support in every way that you can give it. I love and appreciate you. And y'all have a good rest of the weekend. See you soon.